So anybody who listens to our show on a regular basis knows that, well, I'm a big proponent of serving our veterans and respecting our veterans because they do so much for us. That's what we're going to talk about today as we have former Rice County Sheriff Dick Cook and Lloyd Grandprey, former commander, past commander of the Faribault American Legion, in studio. Thanks, gentlemen, for stopping by.
You're welcome.
Our pleasure.
It's good to see you, Dick.
Likewise.
How are you doing these days?
Nice to be here.
You doing well?
Doing well, keeping pretty busy, and this is one of my pet projects.
Yeah, I know. You're co-chairs of this committee, right?
Correct.
Lloyd and I have been involved since the get-go. He was actually commander of the Central Vets when I came to the meeting and threw out the idea after visiting the Northfield Memorial dedication, and Lloyd said, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, your dad, Herb, was very much interested, and he was on my back to get this started before that time. And being a fairly newcomer to the community, I didn't think I was, able to make the contacts that were necessary. And so I kind of put him off until Dick came. And when Dick came, I thought, this is going to work. We can do it. And it is working. It's going to take some time to finish it up, but one day we will have it complete.
It's a very nice memorial, don't you think?
Yes, every memorial is unique, and we're very happy to have it on the front lawn of the courthouse, which is the symbol of government for the county. And we feel that we've pieced it together. We've built it as we can afford it, and our goal is to have it completed within 10 years, which is would be July of next year. That's our goal, is to complete the project by
Wow, next year will be 10 years, huh?
Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's been a long effort, but it's going good, I think. Slowed down a little bit the last year or so, but we're expecting a little help outside of the county. I've been in contact with Representative Daniels. I met him last summer at the Heritage Day Parade, and we talked, and he has written a bill to provide some money through the state legislature. Now, we don't know if it's going to come through this year. There was some legacy funds that were available, and then that door was closed, and bonding and some other methods, but he's working diligently for us to get us a block of money so that we can complete that. We have a contract with Anderson Memorials. We paid recently $35,000 down on the granite that's going to be necessary to complete it. Total cost of that's $131,438. Our total project is priced out at $405,000. And that's somewhat modest compared to, you look at the Northfield Memorial, over $700,000. Rochester, with much more than that. Of course, they're a bigger community, but this is a county memorial. It isn't just a Faribault memorial, and we would appreciate a little more help from outside of the city of Faribault. We have, how many pavers do we have laid down?
We have 760 at this time and 22 ready to go for Memorial Day.
So we're not quite at 800.
Nope, we're not quite at 800. When we started this project, there was a lot of interest from Morristown area and a little bit from Lonsdale, but they decided they wanted to do their own unique memorials in their communities, which is great. Every community should have something to recognize the veterans, and so they worked with us a little bit, and then they broke off and went their own way. But we do have pavers from veterans from Northfield and Lonsdale and other communities throughout the county. So it is open to all veterans, not only from Rice County, but as you well know, Gordy, from anywhere.
Yeah, I got a paper there for my dad. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about more updates and how you can get a paper when AM Minnesota continues. I didn't realize it's been 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Next year will be 10 years.
Next year will be 10 years. There's been some challenges, no doubt about that, when you're talking that kind of money for a veterans memorial. It takes a while to get out there. We sold a lot of raffle tickets and did other types of fundraisers.
We had a four-wheeler and we had a motorcycle, and we've had a breakfast. We probably should have some more, but raising money is not easy. And
no.
There were a lot of things that came up during that period: soccer, dog park, the exercise room at the high school. There were all kinds of things going on in addition to our project. And now, of course, the senior center is raising money, so we got a little work to do in order to complete this project. We've got assets of $68,000 right now, but we're going to need. We spent $250,000 to this point, so we had some pretty good years. One of the first years we raised $88,627.
So the cost of the pavers doesn't quite offset the cost.
No, we've had one $10,000 donation. We've had a $5,000 donation, and some others that are appreciable. But we're looking for some more, obviously. And the pavers, of course, have been our main source of revenue, and they. We're paying now something like $100 to have them made up, but we charge $300, so that difference will help us build the rest of the infrastructure.
Well, that was $300. I know when I purchased my dad's, and it's still $300.
Still $300. Yeah, we haven't changed that. No.
The price of the paver for us has gone up a little, but we've kept the price at $300. We feel that's manageable and reasonable.
Oh, sure.
And,
it's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
We hope.
Well, the granite, granite isn't going to disappear unless it's crushed or something with a heavy piece of equipment. We've had good support from the county as far as they've really upgraded that lawn with the sprinkling system and reseeding some of the areas and so on and so forth. Well, it's really going to be nice when it's completely finished.
Did you guys figure out how many pavers that could hold?
Well, currently we're going down the sidewalks, and I know it'll hold over 1,000. And then if we need to, we can come back up along the main sidewalk, and that's a long area. That'd probably hold another 750. So there's potential to hold a lot of pavers on this. Yeah.
But I would encourage people to do it. Like we've touched on before the break, my dad didn't live in Rice County. But I have lived here I have lived here longer than anywhere else in my life, so it's home. No reason why I can't honor my own dad, our veterans.
That's for sure. I honored my father-in-law, who was Steele County, my dad, who was also Steele County, my cousin, my two grandsons, so there's several Grandpreys up there.
Himself, Lloyd's not from Faribault, so
no,
he's from Owatonna. So, and one of our other hardworking committee members, Kirk Mansfield, he's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he's quite active in the veterans organizations here, and he's been very helpful with the Rice County Veterans Memorial. And
Kirk's father donated the stainless steel to make the podium that we have there, where we have a directory.
Sure.
And Kirk welded that. He has a lot of talents, and so we have really appreciated it. He joined us after the start of the program. Of course, he wasn't active at the very beginning of the project, so we really appreciate all the service. He's gone up there in the sun and shoveled during the winter to get the snow off, and he's just one heck of a nice guy.
Yeah, well, it's a special place, I think, and I think everybody would agree if they get a paver. So how do they go about doing that?
Well, we have pamphlets at the Legion in Faribault, and we also have a virtual presence on the internet, like most organizations do, at ricecountymemorial.org. ricecountymemorial.org, pretty easy to remember, and you can go there and fill out a form, and you can pay with PayPal if you have an account with PayPal. So, we try to keep that site updated as to what's going on up there and how many pavers have been laid. And I've had contacts from people that have gone to the website and viewed it and called and asked, said that they're going to send their money in for a paver for their dad or their grandpa or their son or daughter, and just a whole variety of different people have come together up there to make it a special place. You had mentioned you hope it's there forever. That's kind of one of the reasons why we're in front of the courthouse, because nothing will be built there in the future, and it's pretty much been designated as hallowed ground for the Veterans Memorial ever since that Civil War monument was placed back in 1917. And they had quite a celebration back in July of 1917.
I bet they did.
Bands from different communities, and it was a big deal back then. And we'd like to replicate that, hopefully in the 100-year anniversary, which would be July of 2017. And we know we'll have the columns there by then. The last piece of the puzzle, so to speak, is black granite tablets that are going to have all the 6 branches of the service. Lloyd, you can talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, yes. We'll have these crests, bronze crests that will be on this black granite, and that's just going to be beautiful. And then we expect to have the motto of each branch of service. The Marine Semper Paratus, and the Coast Guard Semper Fidelis. And then on the reverse side, we want to put a short mission statement for each of those services. Lettering is, we have to work that out yet. We haven't got that decided, but unless there's some better ideas come in. But that's the plan right now, is to put the motto on the front and the mission statement of each of those services on the back.
So every branch?
Every branch, including the Merchant Marine. So there'll be 6 tablets, 3 on each side, with these columns, and the columns are going to be broken. They start at what, about 8 feet tall, and
down to 3.
Down to 3 feet. But and Dick, you could explain a little bit about the thinking behind that.
Well, we've tried to keep there's a lot of symbolism to this memorial. We've worked with Anderson Memorial, Jeff Anderson from Austin. He was the designer of the Rochester Memorial, and he was also a designer of the Northfield Memorial. And we put together a nice little plaza, which is in the center of that plaza is our pole with the eternal flame, representing vigilance and that we will never forget the service and sacrifice of our soldiers. But that pole also supports an eagle, which is a sign of strength and security of the United States and the military, how that supports the security of our country. But also flying with a dove, which represents the ultimate goal of a strong military is peace through strength. But nothing is symmetrical, which represents the dissonance of war, that war is not a pleasant thing, it's disruptive, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, and so nothing is symmetrical, but everything flows into the center of that plaza, which is represented with the eternal flame and the eagle flying with the dove. You have to experience it yourself. The sidewalks which lead to the memorial, one sidewalk comes in on the south side, one sidewalk comes in on the north side, and they flow into that central plaza of the memorial. But those sidewalks are lined with the pavers of those who have served and those who are represented there. What I would like to see in addition, and our committee is going to discuss this, is I don't know if you saw the show on PBS called Debt of Honor. It represented the sacrifice of disabled veterans throughout the war. It started with the Revolutionary War and all the way through the current Iraq and Afghanistan war. But it talked about the sacrifice that was made by these soldiers and how medical improvements on the battlefield have increased those surviving injuries on the battlefield, and how they've come back, and we have to support those veterans coming back. But I'd like to see some. We didn't want to design this as a war memorial. We want it to be a veterans memorial, but I think we need to show the impact of how many served, how many were killed or died from their service, and how many were wounded and have come home that we have to take care of. And that's another aspect of the memorial that we would like to accentuate, and we'd like to accentuate that in some of the open spaces in our walkways.
Yeah, in hindsight, I wish I would have put on my dad's paper, because he was a BAV.
Yeah, we still could pull that out and
Now,
put that
something
on.
you don't, you know, you couldn't tell that he was a disabled American vet, but he had his card.
Sure.
And I didn't even know until he passed.
That could
and I
be
went to
added,
his
that could be
billfold.
added to that paper. It can be lifted and made, you know, changes can be made.
Yeah, we'll have to check on that. You know, because that's significant.
Well, it changes people for their lifetime.
We have two little gardens connected with a plaza on the corners, and one's dedicated to KIAs, Killed in Action, and the other POWs. And there's nice stones with engraving on them. We've got rose bushes, and Dick has just been up there and planted some flowers and added some new dirt. And I'm scheduled to go up there and do some trimming, but on the bushes. But by Memorial Day we'll have it. By Memorial Day we'll have it looking spick and span.
You have some perennials up there, or what?
We have some rose bushes and salvia, and I just put in some snow in summer, which is like a ground cover for the front of the gardens, which really looks nice and is kind of bright and inviting. So, you know, we're trying to keep it looking nice. Once you do a Veterans Memorial, it's not over. There are maintenance issues, and you know, our committee started out kind of large, and it's kind of shrunk in size. Unfortunately, some of our members have passed on because they were, you know, older at the time that we began, and some of them have had some health problems and aren't able to help anymore. And there's probably 4 or 5 of us that are still active in it, and we would, if anybody is interested in something like that, we certainly would entertain adding people to the committee, and they could take on a task. Faribault Futures helped with putting the pavers down for the Civil War monument. We had 76 veterans from the Civil War that were either killed or injured in duty that are represented up there. We worked with remember John's name? Last name?
No, I don't.
John and his wife, they do a lot of things with cemeteries. And
Dalby.
Dalby's, the
John
Dalby's.
Dalby's,
Thank
yes.
you, Lloyd.
The Dalby database at
yeah, the
Wright
Dalby
County Historical Society.
We worked with John to get the names of those veterans, and all of his research really helped us recognize those that were placed there. But Faribault Futures helped put that block of pavers down, and that's by the Civil War monument. It's really a nice addition to that, and they're displayed in a different color of granite and have a special section at the memorial.
Yeah. Oh, and the guy you used to work with, Ole Stark.
Yes.
Used to be heavily involved in that too.
Yep, he was. He cleaned up a lot of cemeteries around, and Ole's represented there too. His daughter bought a paver for him you know, once she found out what we were doing there.
Yeah. Well,
we've had some interesting paver orders. One came from the administrative assistant to Representative Daniels. His grandmother served in the, I believe, in the waves in the Second World War, and Nolan bought a paper for her. And really appreciated that.
well, we just had Liz Strophus pass. She was a WASP.
She's right up front there. Yep, she's up there, one of the originals at the beginning of the project. We also have at least 2 individuals that served in the Canadian Army and Air Force that were our allies, and one of them was a former colleague of mine, Pete Bossman, and he recently passed away, but he has a paver up there, and I think he was on the third wave of landing on Normandy with the Canadian Army. So we had a discussion about that on our committee. You know, where do we want to limit? You know, who can join that? And we've opened it up to any of our allied forces that have served with us. If there's a connection to Faribault and they want to do it, or no connection, it's open to all veterans.
Yeah, well, and it should be, I think. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to limit it to only Rice County veterans.
Now, I know at Rochester Memorial, I think they advertise within 50 miles. Now, we have no limits whatsoever.
I don't understand that,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You could have grown up here, served your country, come back and lived in California the rest of your life, but you grew up here. So why couldn't you be honored in your hometown?
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, you can go online and order these papers. That's about the simplest way, right?
RiceCountyMemorial.org. The order form's there, and the place to send it is there.
How long does it take to get the paper?
Well, typically, if you ordered it now, it probably wouldn't be in until next Memorial Day,
Okay.
or maybe Veterans Day. It depends on how busy they are at the Granite Works. They try to squeeze them in when they have time to keep the cost down.
They don't like to do just individual ones because it takes some setup and so on and so forth. So during the winter, they're a little bit freer to do that kind of work than they are. Once the spring comes, they're out. Most men are out in the cemeteries and so on, catching up with that kind of work. But it's a scheduling type of thing. So we try to get them when we have the orders. We post them right away and get them in, and as soon as they are available to do the work, we get it engraved, and then we get it back and we set it. So
you're in the planning stages, I would assume now, Dick and Lloyd, for next year. You want to have a big observance next year.
That's what we'd like to
A
do.
rededication of the facility?
Yeah, wherever we're at with the project, I know we'll be almost finished. Lloyd had touched on the funds from the legislature, the legacy funds, and we got wind of that because some other organizations have received some help, and that group up at the legislature really liked what we were doing because we almost have it paid for, and this is just kind of the last oomph over the hump.
Right.
And you know, but this is a bonding year. They don't do bonding projects unless they cover the full cost this year, but next year there'll be legacy funds available again, and we'll continue our local fundraising, and you know, the goal is to have that dedication next year sometime around July.
I appeared before the Veterans Committee at the legislature and testified, and Bob Detmer, representing the Forest Lake area, former wrestling coach up there, and a native of Faribault, was the chair of that committee. And I made my presentation and got through, and there were 12 or 15 members of the committee. Not one asked a question. They were all in favor of it, so I thought he did a pretty decent job.
Well,
I'm sure he did a crack-up job.
it's interesting that not a single question was asked. You covered the territory very well, obviously.
Well, it's pretty small in relation to some of the projects that they fund.
Sure.
And you know, yeah, we did meet with Bob Detmer and Brian Daniels about this, and they seemed real receptive and supportive of it.
So, again, we only have a couple minutes left of the show. Tomorrow, by the way, Nort Johnson will be in studio. We'll talk about Main Street. I know the Tourism Department just recently got their report. They had a report, and I think the City Council is going over it tonight. Sheriff Troy Dunn is scheduled to be with us on Thursday, or a representative of the Boat Patrol. We're going to talk about boat safety because the fishing opener is this weekend. And John Fossum, Rice County Attorney, will be with us on Friday's edition of AM Minnesota. So again, we encourage you to get those papers. Memorial Day will be here before you know it, and we want to see a lot of people up on the grounds of the courthouse in observance of Memorial Day as well. A terrific memorial we have here in Rice County. Northfield is very nice. Shieldsville, I like the Shieldsville, Morristown has a very nice memorial, so.
It's nice when they're on the highway and you can see them visibly from the road.
Yeah, I like that too.
Mhm.
And the same's true with yours at the courthouse, you know,
Yep, very visible.
people coming through town, they'll see it, right?
They see that eternal flame.
All
We're
right.
so proud of that bronze eagle too. That really sets it off, and that was Dick's idea. We have we didn't mention we have a map of the county bowl, which has all of the communities in the county labeled, and the rivers and the major highways. But that was done in an effort. It replicates what is in the rotunda of the courthouse. There's a terrazzo one there, and so we brought that idea out, and the idea with that is to bring our county communities together. We didn't want to leave out, this is not a Faribault thing, it is a Rice County memorial.
And even though you honor a loved one in a Northfield or Lonsdale or Morristown, you can certainly do this likewise at the Rice County Courthouse. No reason why you can't overdo honoring somebody, I don't think.
Well, I've placed my dad's in Morristown, Shieldsville, and Northfield and Rice County, so he's in 4 places.
Oh,
and
cool.
he was district commander at one time in the area, so I thought that'd be appropriate.
That makes perfect sense. That concludes today's edition of Bay, Minnesota. Hopefully folks will get on out and purchase those pavers in memory or honor of someone in their life. You're in tune to KDHL AM in Faribault.